Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So, more coronavirus updates with concerns over bosses breaking COVID safety rules. And this is that the employers are not being prosecuted, whereas the employees and regular civilians are for flouting COVID rules, as they say, which is to say, not wearing a muzzle. And the point of this is, of course, that anybody would want to be able to live. Of course, that is the last thing that they're going to cling to, and generating some sort of income is paramount in order to survive. So, of course, employees are going to flout COVID rules if necessary in order to generate an income to survive, and the same as employers in order to keep their business going, because that is how they generate an income in order to survive. It's called livelihood for a reason, because that is what you live on. But why might it be that there haven't been any prosecutions for employers instead of employees and regular civilians? Well, I would put it to you that if you fine an employee, then they're going to need to work more in order to pay the fine. If you fine an employer, then their business might go under, which means there isn't anything left for the economy. So it seems as if the government is aware of just how important employers are. They seem to be downplaying the importance of employees, and there seems to be their way around having a minimum wage law. But they are aware that they need entrepreneurs and business people to hire other people and to provide them work to do in order to give value to other people, in order for themselves to create an income. And that is why, given how difficult times have been, they do not wish to make things any more difficult for business owners, whereas they will not give a shit about employees because, hey, someone else will fill the gap in the the GDP will keep chugging along. But that's just my 2 cents on it. So as we see, concerns have been raised about employees forced to go into workplaces that are not COVID compliant during lockdown. Between 6th and 14th of January, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, received 3,000 complaints about safety issues. The head of UK's unions called for ministers to crack down on employers who break COVID safety rules. The HSE said it had scaled up its work to check and support firms during the pandemic. But, as I stated at the top, the Observer reports that no companies have been prosecuted and fined for breaking workplace coronavirus safety rules since the start of the latest national lockdown in England, although a spokeswoman, they gotta put that in there, for the HSE said figures on enforcement action, which can include verbal advice or written warning, cannot be verified until Monday. She added that its inspectors continue to be out and about, putting employees on the spot and checking that they are complying with the health and safety law. Firstly, utter dickheads. Things are difficult enough without you breathing down their neck. But, secondly, if this is supposedly so dangerous, then surely you don't want people out there checking things all the time, coming into the workplaces, unless, of course, what you're suggesting is that wearing PPE or your masks are a magical catch-all which just stops the virus without a doubt. And if you were to just wear a mask and maybe gloves, everybody would be saved, no matter what. If that would be the case, then surely we wouldn't have to be in another lockdown and you wouldn't have to work from home. So that clearly isn't the case. So this seems to be just another way to raise revenue. And forgive my pessimism, or not, but the way I see it is that the reason for the COVID fines, as well as things like speeding tickets, are not there for people's safety. Not in the slightest. It is instead there in order to be able to balance the books. And seeing as we've seen such rampant runaway inflation in order to pay for all of the COVID relief that's being given out, which is essentially just universal basic income in order to make you reliant on the government instead of being a free agent, but that's a story for another time, that in order to create that money without the inflation, they have to fine people who do have their income. And that is why we're seeing such an increase in fines, as well as changing speed limits in order to bring about more speeding fines, and why speed cameras are not on the most dangerous stretches of road, but instead they just seem to be there for no apparent reason, only to make money. So, no, this is not an example of government having your best interests at heart. It is instead another example of government having their own best interest in heart in how to raise enough revenue for their little biscuit pot in the staff room. But that is essentially what it has come down to. So the HSE has introduced telephone spot checks in response to the coronavirus crisis, she said. We continue to scale up the number of spot check calls and visits we are doing so we can reach as many businesses as possible during the current lockdown period. TUC said, if the government is upping enforcement, ministers should start with employers who break COVID safety rules. So again, if they're upping their visits, they're spreading the truth more. If it's a phone spot check, then what's it supposed to be? Just a ring. Hello? Hi, we're calling from HSE. Are you following COVID protocol? Yes, definitely. All those laws, yes, PPE, masks and gloves and antiseptic wipes and sanitization. We're doing all that. Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day then. Yes, you too. Is that the kind of call that we're experiencing here? Is that what I mean by their cold calling? Or is it supposed to catch somebody out, in which case it is just entrapment, which is illegal? I appreciate the idea for social distancing, but it seems pretty bloody shit and very fallible. But the HSE has said that it's carried out more than 32,300 site visits during the pandemic. And the government should also make it clear, according to TUC, that everyone who can work from home should do so. Right, well, if they wish to, then they will do. However, they say, rules on going to work and, just make sure that it's COVID safe and develop a specific strategy to stop the virus's spread, which is just generic, but then you make it particular for yourself. So if it's you can't have more than a certain amount of people in the office, then you just stagger the shifts. That kind of thing. Easy, but you have to do it specific in order to say which group is in at which time and all that bullshit. But that's the kind of thing that we've come to expect with the red tape and risk assessments that we've seen for years. So it's nothing new, it's just got a new name on it, for what it's worth. However, when it comes down to people working despite being ill, oh no. A recent survey conducted by the Royal Society for Arts, Manufactures and Commerce also suggests that some staff have faced pressure to return to the workplace despite a recent coronavirus test. What pressure is this? Is this their employer? Or is it their living habits? And it could just be the cost of living. This isn't a slice on them. But we all have pressure to work because if we don't, we won't be able to afford to live. If we're not providing value to anybody else, we cannot expect to receive any value ourselves. And that is pressure. If you're given statutory sick pay instead, and that is insufficient for your living habits, then yeah, you'll either need to work more or change your living habits. One or the other. If it is the employer saying, we don't care that you've been tested positive, you have to come to work anyway, then of course, legal action is right there for you. Seeing as this doesn't seem to be acted upon, I'm guessing that's not the case. So they say, of 1,172 UK workers surveyed, 4 in 10 said they had worked within 10 days of a positive test. More than 10% of respondents also said they had been ordered on site when they could have easily and safely worked from home. Well, who is that to decide? Is it yourself or your employer? If you think your employer is wrong, then either take them to court, or better yet, just have a conversation with them and say, hey, I think I'd be able to do this from home just as well, and I am concerned about this virus, in which case, if you don't mind, please give me a 2-week trial, or maybe just a 1-week trial to do this work from home. If I do not scrub up to the standard that you're expecting and that I have shown that I am capable of over the past few years that I've been working for the company, then by all means call me back into the office, as what I am saying is not correct. But please, can I just have this fortnight to work from home and to prove to you that I'm just as capable? chances are I'll go, okay, if you wish. It's not really in keeping with the company culture, and you might be squeezed out of the relationships that we have here, but if that's a risk that you're willing to take, then by all means, skedaddle. Again, it probably means that you won't be in line for promotions, but if you're happy with that, then sure, frolic off and work from home. That's the way to do it. It's that straightforward. But you have got to know to be able to stand up for yourself, of course. And just to finish off with the it's really demoralizing, great story here. And this has to be taken with a pinch of salt because maybe there is actually a problem. But the way I read it, there doesn't really seem to be. So Brian, not his real name, works cleaning portable toilets on construction sites in southeast England. Good for you. He told BBC Radio 5 Live that he does not feel safe but feels forced to carry on working so I can pay my bills. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? That guy's just saying, oh yeah, well, I'm not comfortable doing my job, but I have to provide value to other people, otherwise I don't get anything myself, and, you know, I'm not a charity, people aren't just going to pay me to live because I'm a human being, and that sucks, you know, that I have to do what everybody else has to do in working and providing value to other people so that I get something in return. I should just be given things instead. And you might think that I'm being facetious, but not really. Given that, he says, due to his and his wife's worries, he asked if he could be furloughed, but his firm said that he would only be eligible for statutory sick pay. Fair enough, you get sick pay. But that's not good enough for him, so he says morale is on the floor. So what has he done? Has he thought, okay, I'll prove I can work from home, or okay, I'll see if I can transfer somewhere else, or okay, I'll start my own business, or okay, I'll look into the coup more and therefore not be concerned by it? No, he's called on Chancellor Rishi Sunak to end the trade-off between health and putting food on the table by allowing self-isolating workers to access the government's furlough scheme and maintaining the £20 per week uplift in universal credit, which is due to expire in April. Yeah. So furlough, that's not working from home. That means you're just not working. And he's saying, yeah, I'd like some more of that, being paid to not work. And can we also up the amount that we get paid for not working and keep this other benefit on for a bit longer? Well, no. No, you can't. Because you can only earn money if you're giving something of value in order to earn it, in order to receive it. If this is being printed out of nowhere, then you're either telling everybody else that is around you to say, hey, how about you work and I'll take the credit? Oh, isn't socialism great? Or you're saying, hey, no, let's not worry about this. Let's just pass on the debts to our children. So if when I have children and I bring them up, I will know that they're going to have a more difficult time because of my actions. I have not done what is best for my children. Instead, I have started them off on a bad footing so they have to pay off my debt before they can make their own life. What a great guy, Brian. Aren't you fantastic? Aren't you just brilliant? Because, of course, also, if you've bought into the narrative that the coup is so deadly because you trust the government, then surely you must have also bought into the narrative that you can prevent this by wearing masks and gloves. Or not, are you being picky? Because if you're being picky and just decide you'd rather not work, it sounds like there's something else afoot and you're just taking advantage of the opportunity. I do not envy you to clean toilets on construction sites. That sounds like a dreadful job, and I do not envy you at all. I'm grateful for the job that you do, for the people that are affected by it, but I do not want that job. If you also do not want that job, then have a look around. Chances are, if you've been in the industry long enough, then you're aware of problems that could be fixed and you've got an idea on how to fix them. In which case, solve for X, that is your product, that is your offering to the world, and go down the entrepreneur route. If you've got a hobby instead that could be profitable, then go down that route so that you enjoy what you're doing. But don't just ask people to pay for your existence. Please, take on some personal responsibility and understand that you have to provide something to somebody else in order for them to give you something back in return. And if you don't believe me, then take money out of the equation and take it back to the bartering system. So instead of getting paid by somebody, you are just exchanging goods with them. If you're saying you should be furloughed and still be paid, then what you're saying is you should go to your butcher or baker and say, I'm not really comfortable working at the minute, so could I just have some of your meat and bread for free? I know you've worked hard to make it, and I know that I should be offering something else in return, cleaning the latrine so that you don't catch cholera, for example. But yeah, I don't feel like it. So can I just have that stuff for free instead? And, I'll put you at risk at catching cholera because I don't feel inclined to work. I think we all know your butcher and baker would give you an emphatic no. You've got to earn what you receive. And that might be unfortunate, but that is a fact of life. If you do not wish to work or have a job of any sort, then go start your own farm and be completely self-sufficient. That is also an option. By all means, go do that. It is difficult because it is easier when people specialize, but if that is what you prefer, we're seeing, the idea of going off the grid more popular recently. So by all means, take advantage of that. There are resources out there in order to assist you with that life choice. And good luck to you, Brian. But you're responsible for you, not anybody else. But that's it from me. So as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think, that's a bit harsh and there should be more to support people that are furloughed and employers should be fined more? I mean, I'm guessing not because I think I know my audience, but either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.